VLR.
Their Finest Hour is a production of Vigilant Liberty Radio. All opinions expressed are just that, and are not necessarily those of VLR, any panelist or guest, or any organization they may be associated with. Also, as this is an internet program, language and content may reflect the age of the participants. That being said, it's time to go.
Flight controllers, go for landing. Retro, go. Fido, go. Guidance, go. Control, go. Telcom, go. ENC, go. ECOM, go. Surgeon, go. Capcom, we're go for landing. Eagle, Houston, you're go for landing, over.
This was their finest hour.
I do understand, go for landing.
I speak to you in a solemn hour of the cause of freedom.
Contact light. Okay, engine stop.
Until we can re-establish a condition under which the earnings of the people can be kept by the people, we are bound to suffer a very severe and distinct curtailment of our liberty.
We copy you down, Eagle.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
And this is Their Finest Hour here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. Alan Bordius is not here. I am your guest host, Taylor Millard. Very happy to have you here on a nice Monday night here in the great state of Texas. A lot of us are celebrating Team USA's 2-1 win over Ghana. Probably one of the funniest memes or online graphics I've seen is, sorry Ghana, you don't have a Heisman Trophy winner either, which I thought was kind of amusing too. One of the things that's not very amusing from a international standpoint is what's going on in Iraq. The latest news is that President Obama announced tonight U.S. ground troops equipped for combat are being sent to Iraq. Apparently, 275 U.S. troops will be sent to protect the American embassy and our interests there. And joining me now to discuss the situation in Iraq as well as Iran's involvement in it is Richard Grinnell from Fox News. How are you doing, Rick?
I'm doing great, Taylor. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being on. What's your opinion of all this, specifically when it comes to the troops going in, the 275 troops going in to kind of protect our interests?
Well, you know, Iraq has been a very messy situation for a long time, and I think anyone who tries to pretend like there's an easy answer here for the hundreds of years of fighting, I think is really missing the reality. It's a very complicated situation with Sunni and Shia and Kurds all fighting, and yet my attitude is that the United States definitely has a serious strategic interest in the region, and that is to make sure that Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. That's been our policy for quite some time. I think that it would be a game changer for the entire region and for American security if Iran is able to get a nuclear weapon. And this administration, this Obama administration, has been dealing with Iran. They threw out the increased sanctions and decided to just have a conversation to try to talk the Iranians out of the nuclear weapon. The Iranians have not complied, and we're coming up on 6 months, and it looks like the Obama administration is going to continue that dialogue. And then they announced recently that they would add another issue to the discussions with Iran, and that would be, how do we help Iraq? I think that's such a naive conversation. The Iranians have, for a very long time, been the number one state sponsor of terrorism. They pay for it, they organize it, they allow it to happen in their country, and they export it to every place they can, including Lebanon, Syria, and in Iraq. And so the idea that we're going to talk to Iran about terrorism inside Iraq is ludicrous. They are sponsoring it. What the Obama negotiators should do is literally say to the Iranians, no more discussions on the nuclear issue. This negotiation is over until we are convinced that you are not playing games in Iraq and other places and not fomenting terrorism and instability. And until we have a very clear idea that you have stopped, we are not going to negotiate with you on the nuclear issue. And matter of fact, we're going to increase the sanctions. That's exactly what Obama should do today.
There was a report out of the State Department, actually, which said that counterterrorist officials warned that Iran was meddling in Iraq as part of its report on the state sponsors of terrorism, and now Iran is helping, or offering to help Iraq. Is this just maybe their goal is the same goal as the ISIS group, just they want to be the ones in control, not ISIS?
Yeah, well, the one thing that you have to understand is that Iran is going to do anything to get a nuclear weapon. They're going to use wedge issues. They're going to create terrorism. They're going to create instability so that everyone else is nervous about it and focused on it, and they then can come in and calm it down, even though they're the ones sponsoring it, just to be able to get a chip to get their nuclear weapon. They are focused on a nuclear weapon. If they get a nuclear weapon, Americans need to understand it is a game changer. The Iranians hate us. They hate democracy and Western ideas. It is a very dangerous situation if they have a nuclear weapon. And so our policy needs to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep that out of their hands. And again, I go back to just the history of, even the last decade. In 2005, the Iranians and the Syrians were causing havoc inside Lebanon, and President Bush, with the international community, pushed out the Syrians and the Iranians out of Lebanon. It was a huge day for Lebanon, and they were on the path to stability. And then what we have is not only did the Iranians, when Obama became president of the United States, go back into Lebanon, but Syria has now been chaos, and the Iranians are right there playing the terrorism game inside Syria. And now they've moved into Iraq. It's so clear what the Iranians are doing, and if we have a policy that's not directly confronting the Iranians, not working with them, but confronting them, then we are not doing the best for the U.S. national security interests.
And what is, and of course, that if it is true that Iran was working with ISIS and obviously wants to grow their territory, what does that do to Israel? That puts them in even more dire straits, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the entire region has a cause for concern. Not only Israel, but even Turkey. And you got to remember, Turkey is a NATO ally of ours, and they don't want to see Iraq split into three different groups or regions, as Joe Biden, the vice president, has said in the past, because they have their own Kurd issue. So the Turks, again, a NATO ally of ours that we have a treaty with, that we are to defend and cooperate with, they very much do not want to see the Kurds split off. So my opinion is that we should be working with our allies in the regions, like the Turks, for what they see as the best outcome. And the Saudis. The Saudis are one of our best partners in the region to confront the Iranians. They hate the Iranians. They have a different view of the world, and they it can help the United States. My attitude is, what is best for the United States in the region? And let's work with our Arab partners to make sure that we can accomplish our goals. And we have many, Taylor, many Arab partners in the region that are begging for U.S. leadership. I don't buy this whole argument that President Obama gives to us that says, you know, Americans are tired of war, he's not going to send in troops, and so be it. He turns the other way and goes to Palm Springs to Gulf. There's a whole bunch that should be happening right now. We should be crazy with diplomacy. We should be having meetings at the UN. We should have a strategy. We should tell the Arabs, this is what we think should happen. Get rid of Maliki, because the Iranians want Maliki to stay. Let's get rid of him. Let's bring in somebody else that tries some new political dialogue. That may not work, but I think if we can get a plan together and have some strategic diplomacy, then we've got a shot at trying to do something, because clearly, the Jordanians and the Turks and a whole bunch of other people in the region are interested in calming the situation down. It's only the Iranians and their terrorist partners that are looking to create instability, not just in Iraq, but Syria and every other place. And it's the Obama administration that is not coordinating our diplomatic effort with our Arab partners.
I'm a little curious about what you think about the idea that maybe this is something that we should stay out of, wait to see what happens, and then maybe trying to use capitalism, free markets, that sort of thing, to encourage freedom in whoever ends up seizing
Taylor,
control.
I would argue that using capitalism and using free markets, that's doing something. That's not staying out. What Americans have to remember is that we should not fall for this phony argument that President Obama is giving us, that it's either war or ignore a situation. It is not. There are many other things that we can do besides military action. What I am just livid about is I hear all these liberals say, oh, you neocons, all you want to do is bomb. Actually, we're not the ones that are saying bombing. We're saying do something. And it's the liberals that immediately think do something means military action. I'm talking about actually having a plan that allows the President of the United States to convince someone else. We have that terrible negotiating team at the United States right now. You look at who's in charge of our national security. It's Susan Rice and her team, and they've given us 5 Taliban soldiers for one, soldier who deserted, a U.S. soldier who deserted his platoon. You look at what's happening in Syria, or even on negotiations when it came to Libya or Egypt. We have a terrible negotiating team. We should fire the negotiating team because we keep coming out on the wrong end, on the short end of the stick. So what I'm saying is, let's get a team in there that puts together a really aggressive diplomatic strategy, and include, talking about the free markets. I'll give you a specific example that I have been really pushing for a long time when I was on the Romney campaign, and in the lead-up during the primary. One of the things that I was pushing Team Romney to do was to talk about the fact that we have the technology that could bring down the government firewalls around the world. I don't understand why the United States government doesn't invest and work with Silicon Valley to bring down the firewalls in China and in Cuba and all throughout the Middle East. Why don't we just allow the people, by bringing down those government firewalls in their country, allow people to go straight to the internet and have perfect information? It would be beautiful. It would be chaotic for many countries because they're trying to control information. But I think the United States should be on the side of saying you shouldn't control the information that goes to your people. And we then can bring down that firewall, and that is a mechanism that is going to produce education and information, and after 20 years, the people themselves are going to see what they're missing, and they're going to stand up and fight. But those are the types of things that we should be doing diplomatically. And the idea that these weak conservatives allow the liberals to define the issue as war or ignore is really infuriating, because the United States has a lot more to offer, and we should be diplomatically going crazy right now.
And it certainly seems, at least with this administration, whenever somebody does something, 95% of the time, instead of getting fired, they get promoted.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is that, it doesn't matter what kind of a negotiator you are in this administration, because there are no consequences. I mean, let's take Wendy Sherman. I know your listeners probably don't know who she is, but Wendy Sherman is a top diplomat at the State Department. She's one of Hillary Clinton's favorites. Hillary brought her in, and she's still there under John Kerry. She is the woman who negotiated with the North Koreans and decided for the United States to give food aid in exchange for the North Koreans doing a whole bunch of specific things that they said that they would give up their weapons and some of their programs. And yet, we decide to give the food aid, and we don't get any of the concessions from the North Koreans. The whole thing falls apart in 3 days. And this is not the first time that Wendy Sherman has led a disastrous negotiation, and yet she was given the Iran portfolio. So then we send Wendy Sherman to Geneva after completely failing in North Korea. We send Wendy Sherman to Geneva to negotiate with our permanent members of the Security Council and the Iranians on a nuclear deal. It is disastrous. She has proven over and over again that she is a terrible negotiator, and yet she continues to get more and more on her plate.
It's mind-boggling to me too. Rick Grinnell, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I don't want to keep you any longer than you already said, and I know you're in New York, and it's probably getting late tonight. So,
well, Taylor, thanks for having me, and I'd love to be on anytime.
All right, thank you again, sir. That was Rick Grinnell from Fox News. He also served at the UN as the U.S. spokesperson there, and was briefly with the Romney campaign during the last election cycle. Very happy to have him on. Coming up next, we will continue to discuss the Iran situation, the Iraq situation, and what may happen. Plus, we are scheduled to have Mary Chastain on. She is house buying, though, so we will see what happens there. So we'll be back right after this. This is their finest hour. I almost said Saturday Night Cigar Lounge, but that's obviously not the truth. This is their finest hour here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. I'm Taylor Millard, subbing for Alan Bordius. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, this is Larry O'Connor from WMAL in Washington, D.C., and you're listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
We want to welcome Michael Moore to Occupy Wall Street. I'm so impressed by what I'm seeing here.
How much of people's income do you, Michael Moore, want the government to confiscate?
Probably twice what we're paying right now.
It's not envy, it's war.
Where's the rage? Where's the uprising?
Storm the doors of the New York Stock Exchange.
It is a class war.
If the wealthy paid their fair share. For a documentary filmmaker, I do really well. I'm very blessed.
And the rich thought poverty was bad.
I do well.
They get rid of it.
What pure? There's nothing pure about capitalism.
And they know what's coming on Wall Street.
We're seeing the end of capitalism. And I say good riddance.
He is one of my favorite capitalists. Yeah, I want to give him a hug.
Hi, this is Missy Bordius. Join me as I share my womanly bits on the Conservative Feminist Show, 11 p.m. on Fridays, here on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
Hey, this is Alfonso Rachel with 20 Pound Sledge and PJTV Zone Nation, and you're listening to VLR.
Back here on their finest hour on Vigilant Liberty Radio. I am your guest host, Taylor, while Alan is off. And we have a problem now.
We do?
We do. The boss lady just called in.
Oh, so now I'm a problem.
I never said that. Hi, Liz.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, just peachy.
Liz Harrison Boy, what do you not do around here?
I don't do their finest hour.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. Like I said, we don't know if Mary Chastain is going to be able to join us. Congratulations to her on buying a new house.
There's the culprit.
Huh?
There's the culprit.
Yes. But that's worth celebrating.
Yes, it is.
That really is worth celebrating. So, if Mary is able to get here, then we will discuss the Ukraine with her. If she's not able to get here, we'll have her on at another time. Who knows? Maybe I'll get her on Saturday Night Cigar Lounge.
Right.
One of the things that Rick Grinnell said is that he doesn't think that it is an all or nothing situation. He said that he thinks that there is a diplomatic course that can be done in between when it comes to getting involved in what's going on in Iraq. He wants everybody to kind of come to the table and sit down and talk. And he also says that capitalism that free markets ought to be used as a weapon too, which I certainly agree with him on that. What do you think, Liz? Is it an all or nothing, or is there stuff in the background that can be done?
I don't know. I'm always pro free market, you know that.
Yeah.
But whenever people start saying all or nothing with anything in government, I start getting scared.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And honestly, you were catching me when I was, doing the evil thing, making all of the stuff in the background stop going beep, beep, beep. But, rephrase the question, make me happy.
All right. One of the things that we're kind of looking at that we don't know is whether or not it is an all-or-nothing situation. It's either total war or it's staying out completely. One thing what Rick Grinnell said is that there is a happy middle where, he didn't use that term, but we can be involved when it comes to negotiations, to trying to get all parties to the table, to trying to get them to figure out what's going on. That's what he was saying.
Which war are we talking about here? The Ukraine or
We're talking Iraq.
Or Iraq. Because 6 of one half dozen the other at this point. You don't want anybody who is in this administration at the table.
Yeah.
Just saying. Because we have such mental giants as John Kerry. And on the defense end, of course, Hagel. I could go through a list of what's wrong with either of them before I could go through a list of how they could do something right. And another thing that isn't making headlines so much here yet. Because, we're paying attention to everything else. But watch out for the next couple weeks, maybe a month, and we're going to end up with Israel back in the headlines and Hamas.
Yeah,
more than they have been, because that's about to boil over.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's a little amazing seeing the difference in strategies there, from what the U.S. does, what this administration does, and what Israel has done. When it comes to obviously what happened in Israel, they had the 3 kids, including one American citizen, were allegedly kidnapped, and Israel was like, "All right, it's Hamas. We're pretty sure it's Hamas," and went ahead and took all of the Hamas leadership in Israel into custody.
Right.
Whereas you had, whereas with the Bo Bergdahl situation, okay, we'll negotiate 5 top Taliban leaders.
Yeah. You really didn't want to get me started there.
Well, I did.
Yeah, that is like the epitome of bonehead moves. You wondered if we were trumping Jimmy Carter. We did with that. Jimmy Carter can now go down in history as not the worst foreign policy president in the Middle East. So congratulations, Obama administration. But of course, there is another shoe to drop there. Now there's talk that Bergdahl was a CIA operative, which I don't buy for a second. This is the typical rumor mill, conspiracy nut, whatever nonsense. Will we ever get the truth? No. Is Bergdahl a turncoat? Probably. Will he face a firing squad like he should? No. So, what did we get in trade? We just guaranteed that ISIS is going to move outside of Iraq. Period. And I don't mean just Syria either. And the whole situation with them picking up people in Spain, if they were trying to get them to go to Iraq, they were going there to train. They were not going there to be combat type people on the ground there, at least not permanently. No, this is a typical recruitment run in the European nations, and Spain is not the only one. I guarantee that there are other operatives. Oh, and by the way, the one captured in Spain is a Gitmo graduate. So, yeah, we just multiplied that by 5, and actually probably more than that, because the one in question in Spain was nowhere near as valuable. Nowhere near as connected as the one that just got nailed in Spain. So, what do we have now? We have the great possibility that within the next 6 to 8 months, one of the operations that those 5 people, plus whatever's going on with ISIS, is going to happen, and it's going to be on U.S. soil. There will be no argument as to whether or not we should do anything or if we had the assets to do anything, because it will not be on U.S. soil surrounded by foreign soil, like an embassy or something. No, it will be on U.S. soil. If it is not, I will be very surprised.
Yeah, I have Brian in the chat room saying that we should keep producing that we shouldn't have stopped with the neutron bomb.
But see, I'm basically going out on a limb here, and I'm probably annoying the hell out of at least 2 or 3 of my mentors if they'd actually end up hearing this, so I'm not going to make a point of pointing it out to them. But I've come to the basic conclusion that when it comes to this administration, we have to follow Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will. And anything that does go wrong is definitely the fault of somebody who is existing either in the White House or in the Pentagon and had been placed there by Obama.
Yeah.
And remember the whole blame Bush meme? We're going to have the blame Valerie Jarrett meme going on. because that's where a lot of this is coming from. And by the way, she is no policy wonk. She is no foreign policy wonk. She has no bloody clue what the hell's going on. I would not be surprised to find out she doesn't even have a passport, or if she does, it's only been stamped since she has been globetrotting with the president, which means she knows what? Oh yeah, nothing. Because she's been insulated every time she's traveled abroad.
That would make sense.
Of course.
All Valerie Jarrett. Valerie Jarrett has been, was the CEO of the Habitat company. She was with the university. She was at the University of Chicago Medical Center. I don't hear a ton of foreign policy stuff.
I don't hear a ton of really sterling recommendations from either of those employers either. From what I understand, one is no longer in existence, and the other one was of the opinion that she shouldn't let the door hit her in the rear on the way out. Now, of course, I might have been misinterpreting some statements in there, but it didn't seem like very many glowing recommendations are gracing her resume.
Possibly.
Except for the Obamas, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, this is their finest hour here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. I kept wanting to say Saturday Night Cigar Lounge, Liz.
Oh, I know. It's so confusing.
Well, it's since I'm not used to being a host during the week, unless it's a co-host gig.
Right.
On
Roundtable.
Well, no, on Right War.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all new to me, being here on a Monday night. I've got different intro, different all sorts of things. It's very different. I wonder if Alan felt like that the one time that he guested my show.
Probably.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I admit, when it comes to Iraq, I am in the entire let's kind of let them fight it out and see what happens. I have no problem with trying to help with diplomacy if we're able to. Even then, I don't completely trust the diplomats who we have to do this sort of thing. As Rick Grinnell said, the lead negotiator in North Korea in that botched deal is the same one who's handling Iran, and I'm not sure I trust this administration to do it right. And
this administration to do anything right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Lunatic Rex in the chat room says, if we left them fight amongst themselves, Iran wins. Yeah, I realize that is the danger in letting them win. In possibly them winning if we let them fight out, especially with the State Department report that said that Iran was apparently helping the Iraq militias. The big question, though, when it comes to the militias, is one of the things that Iran was doing is that apparently according to their report, they are helping the Shia fighters, the Iraqi Shia fighters. So I thought that was interesting. Especially because the ISIS group is mainly made up of Sunnis. You would think, as Rick Grinnell said, and he's not wrong here, that because Saudi Arabia is mostly Sunnis, that they would want to get involved in it and try to figure out a way to get stuff to kind of calm down, to figure out a way for them to calm down. I'm not sure that Saudi Arabia is willing to do that. I'm not sure the U.S. is willing to let Saudi Arabia to get involved in this. but it's a frustrating. It is a very frustrating situation. And of course, if Iran does get involved and ends up being the major helper here, does that mean then that maybe what they eventually said to al-Maliki is, hey, we'll take over. I mean, if they're both Shias and they both get along with each other, maybe one of the things you run into then is you have the Great Islamic Republic, which is what I think Al-Qaeda wants to build, and then you have Iran getting even bigger, so you have those two forces basically lurking at each other and getting ready to fight each other. So it's a very difficult situation, isn't it, Liz?
Little. Basically what you're dealing with is sectarian violence between Sunnis and Shias, and the borders that have to do with the map have little to do with it. And this entire war has little to do with the lines on the map. This has to do with ancient territories that had been set years ago, thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And, well, we're in over our heads because you're dealing with a history and battle that's been going on for way longer than we've been around.
Yeah. I don't necessarily disagree with trying to get trying to protect our people in Iraq. I think we ought to get our people out and keep them safe. I think if there's a way to get everybody to the negotiating table and get that figured out, that we should do it. I don't know if that's going to happen, again, with the diplomats who are involved and the administration that is involved.
This isn't going to be resolved diplomatically. This is far more deep-seated than anything that we're used to dealing with when it comes to diplomacy between nations. And this is part of the primary reason why it has been so difficult to wage a war on terror in general, because you aren't dealing with standard nation states or anything else like that. You're dealing with something that is bordering on, if not is specifically, tribalism. And that is so foreign to us because the allegiances involved are not anything like what we're used to. I mean, we say, like you sit there and say, I'm a Texan and I'm an American, and that means something, and it has to do with where you live. Now, the people who are in the Middle East, they live in various nations that were established by invaders that have nothing to do with their personal
ideals.
Yeah, their personal ideals, their identity, their personal history. It has nothing to do with it. They were basically thrown around like the Native Americans were here. And the whole reason why anybody in the West has been involved in their affairs at all, and they know it, is the oil. So they don't really give a damn what we have to say because they know that we are in it for the money. That's it. It is just for the black gold.
Yeah, and one of the things that was said in the chat room, which was Lunatic Rex, and he's absolutely right. And Lunatic Rex, check your Twitter. Is that Obama hates the idea of American energy security, and I think he's right. Because the idea of basically of getting that done won't be done because the Obama administration isn't letting people do their stuff outside, isn't letting oil companies drill offshores and not letting them drill in where else they're drilling in Anwar, And we have a caller, apparently, don't we?
No, I called someone because I can.
Oh, okay.
This is my partner in crime over at IJ Review, Mike Miller.
Ah.
How you doing, Liz?
Oh, pretty good.
Mike Miller joining us here on Their Finest Hour, guest hosted by myself, Taylor Millard. Liz Harrison is here. Mike Miller from IJ Review is here. Mike, what do you think about the situation that's going on right now in Iraq, and what's the solution?
Man, where do you start? I mean, off the top of my head, having just been called by my buddy Liz a nanosecond ago to come and make some comments, I mean, the thing that strikes me most, let's just talk about Obama for a second. I mean, this guy, the smartest guy on the planet, right? 5th best president in history. I mean, that was the last time he told us, is always surprised by everything, isn't he? And he was shocked. He was just surprised what was going on here. So, and of course, no one else on the planet was. I mean, the generals, right, warned him not to be the petulant child, pick up his ball and go home when he wasn't able to secure, and this was in the press, by the way, wasn't able to secure the status of forces agreement that he wanted. And various military sources say he didn't even try. And others say that it could happen very easily. The contingency that should have been left behind could have been designated as diplomat and avoid any potential prosecution or whatever by the Iraqi government. That was the sticking point. The U.S., rightly so, wanted Iraq to indemnify our soldiers. So it's a mess, man. But, he was surprised and everybody else saw it coming, right?
Well, it was certainly, I mean, if one of the things, if you, and what the CIA said was that their network that they had was completely destroyed when the military got up and left, because then they didn't have the contacts anymore.
It was exactly so. Someone said, I read earlier today, the screens went blank on the Iraqi computers when we left.
That makes zero sense to me at all.
Well, we're dealing with the Obama administration. It shouldn't.
Well, they were basically just taking a page from the book of the Reagan administration, a la Charlie Wilson. I mean, they did the same thing in Afghanistan. Let's not learn from history.
No, we can never do that, particularly the progressive left, But it's just, I don't know, man. It's what do you do? I mean, there are no good answers here. There are no good answers. Now, Obama says no troops. Now we hear, and rightly so, 275, I think is the number, going to protect a whatever billion-dollar embassy. Okay. And then you hear special forces maybe. So
but
I don't know.
This is what I can't figure out, is that they were evacuating on early this morning. USA Today said that they were evacuating the
all but non-essential people at the embassy.
Yeah. Right. So why are you now sending 275 in?
Because you're Barack Obama and you make it up as you go. I mean, I don't know. This is the most inept, well, in the history of the presidency. I mean, these guys have no clue as to what's going on. I mean, I really honestly believe that, and I know that sounds partisan, but they just don't. I mean, the scandals in the Obama administration, on my show, on Truth Be Told Media, I talk about, and I'm an old guy, I'm 142 years old, so when I talk about back in the old variety shows in the late 60s, there would be this guy, maybe you guys have seen this, but there would be this guy spinning plates on poles. Have you ever seen that? And he's got a bunch of them going, and and then he has to look over here, and one's wobbling. He's got to run over there and get that one going. Then he's got to run back. That's the Obama administration quintessentially in a nutshell, and this is just another example of it. But again, I mean, he was warned by generals. He's been warned about it in Afghanistan, and he does it anyway because he makes decisions based on politics and not on national interest, security, already spent blood and treasure. It's all about politics. And ironically, this is the one 2008 campaign promise that he kept. We're going to be out of Iraq by the end of 2011, and come hell or high water, I'm going to do it. And he did. He was warned, and we're seeing the consequences that were foretold.
Yes, and of course it didn't help any that the administration didn't undo the damage that was started, and I hate to say it, but under Bush, because when Iraq was first liberated, quote unquote, from Hussein, the people had started saying, okay, we want these people to be our leaders. And some of them were Ba'ath Party members, and they didn't follow the rule of Nazi Germany. It didn't dawn on the Bush administration that there could be Ba'ath Party members that weren't really Ba'ath Party members, that there were people that were there saying, I am a Ba'ath Party member and I'm going to do everything that I'm told, blah, 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 to save their own ass.
Exactly. And listen, I mean, liberals tend to like to operate in a vacuum, but this zero-sum world. Listen, the Maliki, however you want to say it, government, model government, not so much. But given the choice, right, between the devil we know and the devil we're learning to know, ISIS, I mean, Al-Qaeda's afraid of these guys, Yeah.
The fact that Al Qaeda said that no, you aren't, you're too extreme for us. What does that say?
Look at the videos, man. I mean, just today, what do they claim? They claim 1,700 to 2,000 executions. They're posting the videos. They're posting the images.
They were able to get a hold of a tank. They got a hold of a tank.
They got a hold of 2 Black Hawk helicopters. There's at least a still image, if not a YouTube, of them flying one of them. But Al-Qaeda selectively, Taliban selectively has used YouTube, has used Twitter pretty effectively over the last several years. These guys the brutality is incredible. It's incredible. And, man, I don't know. You asked me, what do you do? What's the solution? I mean, at this point, who knows? I mean, toothpaste out of the tube, we're going to see. I mean, we're sending an aircraft carrier. We're sending a couple other battleships or what have you into the Gulf. But what do you do? I mean, bombing, right? These guys, ISIS, ISIL, depending on the acronym you choose, blend into the population, blend into civilian clothing in Mosul, in Tikrit, maybe on the outskirts of Baghdad, blending in the population. How do you bomb those people? I don't know, man. I don't know. You know what? The answer is yet to be seen, I think.
Well, it's going to boil down to them trying to protect the oil fields, which, of course, the ones to the north where ISIS has already taken over, we may as well write them off. But now that they're heading down into Baghdad and into Shia territory, I don't know how effective they're going to remain, because the other thing that I was seeing was thousands of people, general citizens, turning out to get weapons and uniforms to fight them.
Yeah. And,
but you know what the problem with that is why they went and do it. They went and did it because their clerics told them to.
Who cares? That's their problem. That's the way they operate. That is their culture. The same could be said about Catholicism back in the day when the Pope said so. They did it.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying in this is that it's a problem. It shows that when the Iraqis said before, we pulled out in 2011, hey, we're not ready, and Well, what did we do? Oh, well, get ready. Good luck. Have fun. Bye.
You know, this whole Democrat notion of telegraphing when we're going to stop fighting a war has always been hilarious to me. You know, he did it here as a campaign promise. He's done it in Afghanistan. We're out by 2016. Can you just imagine the U.S. in World War II as an example, right? Telling Hitler, you know, if we're not successful on D-Day, we're out of there by whatever. I mean, you can't. Again, you know, I say on my show all the time, and I guess I write it often, but you can't make this stuff up about this. This is the gang that can't shoot straight, and I think Brit Hume said it well tonight on the O'Reilly show. I mean, the disaster that is Barack Obama's lack of foreign policy coherence is finally catching up with him on all fronts. And you can't make it up.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, maybe the better response, since they love deadlines, is to say we're going to repeat Hiroshima and Nagasaki on a given date, unless you all learn to play well together.
They won't do that. This administration, remember, is dreaming of a world without nukes.
I know, but you know what I mean. That's the way you set a deadline.
Liz, you're spot on, man. I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, Rush Limbaugh said it best a long time ago. He said the purpose of war is to kill people and break things, and the purpose of Obama and war is to tell people when we're going to stop fighting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Alan Bordius, the man who normally hosts this show and is very nicely letting me sit in his chair. He doesn't have a golden microphone, or else I'd make a comment about that. But what he what he said was, you have to go in to win, and we're not doing that. We haven't fought a war to win since World War II.
Exactly.
Well, of course, you know, Vietnam and Korea were police actions.
Yes. We've not officially declared war, have we?
Yes.
Since World
No.
War II.
We did declare war. We did declare war with Afghanistan and with Iraq.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Stand corrected. But again, we fought them like Vietnam. And, you know.
And as far as the veterans organizations are concerned, we have been in active war since Vietnam. Well, one organization calls it since Korea. The other one calls it since Vietnam. Because at the close of the Korean War, the MASH thing, the final episode where they were saying that there were military personnel going to Vietnam as advisors.
Right.
That was accurate.
Yeah, exactly was accurate.
So, therefore, we technically did have boots on the ground in Vietnam before the peace treaty was signed in Korea.
Yeah, I mean, Eisenhower put boots on the ground, if I'm not mistaken, in Vietnam.
Yeah, my dad served in between the technical beginning of the Vietnam conflict before America started putting cavalry in there, before they moved the Marines in. But he was training foreign personnel, Italians, French, etc., to go to Vietnam, and he was training them in infrared communications. He trained some Americans, but he'd never go to the wall because none of them came back. He didn't want to see the names of all of his students.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask, Mike, where can we find you online?
You can find me online. I am the we have recently restructured. I'm breaking news as we speak here. IJR, Independent Journal Review, a bit of restructuring going on. I am the news and political editor of said site. You can find me at ijreview.com. I do show up rather blandly as Mike Miller on Facebook, where I have quite a following. I post anything I write. I cross-post immediately to my own personal Facebook page. But yeah, and I'm at Ratblog on Twitter. At Ratblog. That's a whole story that we would need a whole nother episode to get into. Liz knows the story, I believe.
Yes,
but
I do.
We need not go there right now. But yes, thank you very much. Let me ask you guys a question, unless I'm about to be booted. But if you, geez, I mean, you go back to at least to the hilarious Syrian chemical weapons red line, right? You go back to Korea. You go to Putin and the Crimea. You go to Iran and the nuclear weapons fiasco, or just the nuclear scenario there. Do you think at all that groups like ISIS are thinking the U.S. isn't going to do anything? I mean, we don't care. I mean, maybe I'm too critical and cynical about Obama, but there's no respect for the United States in this world anymore.
No, there isn't.
I think you make a very, very good point in bringing that up and saying, hey, these people don't, they're paying attention, and they know what's going on, and they know what's going to happen, and they're paying attention to that. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and point being made by al-Baghdadi, who is the head of ISIS, was released by the regime, that would be our regime, 2009, and as he was leaving, he said to his captors, that would be us, I'll see you in New York.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier before you were on, the whole thing in Spain where they were catching people, another Gitmo graduate, of course, recruiting people there. No, it's not to fight in Iraq. It's to do something. They might go there to train, but it's to do something over here or in Europe or both.
And funny you should mention Spain, because we have a very short memory here. The Obama administration hopes we have a shorter one, but radical Muslims, Islam doesn't. They still want to reclaim Spain.
Yeah.
Yep.
From 400 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this
1400 years ago. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, and basically, as I was saying with this, the land in question, forget about the lines that were drawn by the British. Right. This has to do with a territory that had been created thousands of years ago, and it includes Iraq and part of Syria.
Yeah, they said now there are no borders. So what do you guys? I know we're coming to the end, but I mean, when does this ever end? I don't think in my lifetime. And this, it won't.
It won't.
I don't think it will.
Well, it's been going on for thousands of years.
To make a religious statement, it's not going to end until Christ comes back. That's my own personal opinion.
I mean that's as good of an answer as I've heard today. So I don't.
Yeah.
I would be remiss. I would be remiss because we do want to end on a high note. Something which at the Fix, Chris Siliza, I guess, posted, which was one of the probably one of the funniest corrections he's ever seen from the New York Times.
Oh.
This is what they said today. Correction, June 16, 2014. An earlier version of this article misstated the last time Germany won the World Cup. It was 1990, not 1090.
All I could say to that is go USA.
Yes, go USA.
And you guys saw the match, right? Awesome.
Yes. Yeah. And also, because Alan asked me to, the Medal of Honor winner for today, Gunnery Sergeant Robert H. McCard of the U.S. Marine Corps. He was born on November 25th, 1980 in Syracuse. He enlisted in the Marine Corps during 1939. landed with the 4th Marine Division at the outset of the Battle of Saipan on June 15, 1944. The action for which he was decorated for took place on June 16th. What he did was cut off from the other units of his platoon when his tank was put out of action by a battery of enemy 7mm guns. Gunnery Sergeant McCard carried on resolutely, bringing all the tank's weapons to bear on the enemy until the severity of hostile fire caused him to order his crew out of the escape hatch, while he courageously exposed himself to enemy guns by hurling hand grenades in order to cover the evacuation of his men. Seriously wounded during the action and with his supply of grenades exhausted, McCard then dismantled one of the tank's machine gun and faced the Japanese for a second time to deliver vigorous fire into their positions, destroying 16 of the enemy, but sacrificing himself to ensure the safety of his crew. His valiant fighting spirit and supreme loyalty in the face of almost certain death reflect the highest credit upon Gunnery Sergeant McCard and the U.S. Naval Service. He gallantly gave his life for his country. He is resting in peace in the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific in Honolulu, Hawaii. That's the show for tonight. My thanks to Rick Grinnell, Michael Miller, and Liz Ross Harrison for joining us. Alan Bordius will be back next week. I'm Taylor Millard. Tomorrow there is a roundtable of Extreme Liberty. Liz, I believe you are involved in this, are you not?
I'll be producing at least.
She'll be producing. Crystal Schoonveld will be running the show, I guess. You can catch me tomorrow night guest hosting Katrina Jurgensen's show on FTR Radio. That is at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central. I believe is what they call it.
I think Taylor got...
Huh?
Here, wait a minute.
I'm still here.
Did you cut the broadcast?
Not yet.
You better.
I will. So with that, we will catch you guys next week. Don't forget Wednesday, Modern Comment Show, followed by The Right War. Thursday, America Our Way with Dustin Hoyt, followed by The Right War. Friday, The Conservative Feminist Show, not The Conservative Feminazi Show, as someone from Ace of Spades said. And then Saturday Night Cigar Lounge. We'll catch y'all next week. Thanks, y'all.
Their Finest Hour is a production of Vigilant Liberty Radio and is copyright by VLR Media. All opinions of panelists and guests were their own and may not reflect the opinion of VLR Media, the host, or anyone else. Please like Vigilant Liberty Radio on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Vigilant Liberty, and bookmark vigilantlibерtyradio.us.
What is our aim? Victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory however long and hard the road may be. But without victory there is no survival.
So with all the creative energy at our command, let us begin an era of national renewal. Let us renew our determination, our courage, and our strength. And let us renew our faith and our hope. We have every right to dream heroic dreams, believe in ourselves, and believe in our capacity to perform great deeds. And after all, why shouldn't we believe that? We are Americans.
Come, then, let us go forward together with our united strength.
This has got to be one of the most proud moments of my life, I guarantee you.
This was their finest hour.
This show is copyright by VLR Media. All opinions of panelists and guests are their own and may not reflect the opinion of VLR Media, the host, or anyone else.